If only I'd known that. If only I'd known that is probably the saddest, most frequently heard cry from carers. I'm sure that if all those who have ever said it synchronised their watches at a predetermined time, stood in the kitchen and whispered those words, the sound of their voices would echo through the land like a scream. I'm a past carer, but I'm not past caring. That's why I'd like to make the title of this book so unnecessary that future carers would scratch their heads and say they could think of no circumstances in which they would need to be used. In the hope that I might be able to save you from having to seek out the advice and information that you need in your task, I would like to share my findings with you. This booklet records some of my own experiences, as well as providing you with a contact list of numbers of those who are there to help you and the person you care for lead a happier and more fulfilling life. What is a carer? I can identify exactly the time when I became a carer, not instead of, but as well as a lone wife. It wasn't on the morning after my husband's first stroke when I realised that life was never going to be the same again. No, it was 8 years down the line, and the changes had been so subtle and in a way so natural that I hadn't been aware of the effect they were having. And then I realised that things were in a mess and I needed help. It may not seem obvious, but until one has recognised oneself as a carer, and I think the capital is more important in this context, there is little to be done to help you that neighbours or a tot of whiskey wouldn't do just as well. For a long time, I found the neighbours worked better than the whiskey. They were kind, supportive, and full of encouragement and praise. Their words, "we do admire you," or "I don't know how you manage," created a sort of halo that I rather enjoyed polishing. It became a matter of pride not to let their vision of me slip, so I struggled on. But just a minute, who was I caring for? It was my husband who, after a series of little strokes, was suffering from multi-infarct dementia with symptoms those of Alzheimer's disease. If I was struggling, was I really doing the best for him? I may have been wearing the halo, but was he the martyr to my cause? It wasn't until I realised that I was a carer that we were measured up and fitted with the full range of support that was available. My moment of truth came when we were on holiday in Scotland and I phoned my GP from there and cried help. On our return, he arranged for a visit from someone who came as a carer's caseworker and left as our friend. I don't think I'm being unfair to her if I say that we learned a lot together. Because each person's needs are different, the solutions to problems are also unique. She, figuratively speaking, took out her tape measure and ran it over the two of us. She made it clear that her reason for being there was to produce a package that would suit us both. And if you think you could be helped in your role as a carer and you live in Bournemouth, Christchurch or Poole, phone Care Direct on 01202 454 979. Or if you come under the Dorset Council, then phone the Dorset Adult Access Team on 01305 221 016 and ask for a carer's assessment. By the time my husband died, I think we had tapped well over 75% of the resources that were available to us. This meant that the last year of my husband's life was as fulfilled and dignified as it was possible for it to be, and I can look back on it with great sense of joy and gratitude. Let's talk money. I know it's not done in polite circles, but when you're a carer, it pays to talk about money. There are 101 ways, and those are the ones that I know about, that caring for somebody can be expensive. So it's worth finding out as soon as possible whether you are claiming all the allowances to which you are entitled. Attendance allowance for those aged 65 or over is a non-means tested and personal independence payment, PIP, for the under 65s are like the key to a Chinese puzzle. If you're successfully assessed for these, there may be other benefits you can access. Mind you, they don't make it easy. The forms are thick and the questions, though written in normal, everyday language, are quite difficult to answer. But don't despair, there is always help at hand. You can always contact the Leonardo Trust on 01202 9 form navigation assistance. One of the problems is that one doesn't want to be disloyal to the person for whom the allowance is being claimed. This is especially true if someone loves as well as for whom one cares. For that reason, it's a good thing to get help from a third party. You can always phone Care Direct on 01202 454 979 or Dorset Adult Access Team on 01305 221 016 for Dorset Council. Leonardo Trust and the Department of Work and Pensions will also help, as will the Citizens Advice Bureau. Ask for advice on the benefits for which you qualify. Do not assume that the assessment of your needs is done only once. It's important to remember that your circumstances may change. You may start with the lower rate of attendance allowance or personal independent payment because care is provided only during the day or the night. If it becomes day and night, a claim can be made for a higher rate. If you're under 65 or 60 for women and spend at least 35 hours a week caring for someone, and the person for whom you care is eligible for attendance allowance or personal independent payment, middle or high rate, then you may be able to claim the carer's allowance. This is the same amount that one might receive as a wife with a husband's state pension, but there are important differences. It's assessed as one's own income and taxed as such, whilst up to the age of 60, a wife's allowance on her husband's state pension is treated as his and taxed accordingly. Moreover, if one has been paying national insurance contributions in one's own right, these may, in some circumstances, continue to be paid if you're entitled to carer's allowance. This means that one has no gap in contributions, which is important for one's own future pension. It's always worth claiming these benefits. Even after the age of 60, they are unlikely to be paid, but they may entitle you to claim other things like council tax benefit, housing benefit, or pension credit. This is called an underlying entitlement. Physical disabilities may be so severe that you need to adapt a room of your house, specifically for use of the cared for person, or add an extra bathroom or kitchen. You may be entitled to a grant for these alterations. You may also be entitled to have your house put into the band below your present assessment for council tax. Severe mental impairment is yet another criteria for reassessment for council tax. Ask for forms from your local council offices and liaise with your GP, who has to certify that medical conditions are met. You could also apply directly to the Leonardo Trust, whose advice and funding supports carers in a variety of ways. I am not on benefits, and I can only tell you from my own experience. There is a lot of financial help available. The advice must always be to ask. Contact Care Direct Dorset, Adult Access Team, the Job Centre or Citizens Advice Bureau, but don't leave it too late or you'll be saying those dreaded words, if only I'd known that. Another thing which should be discussed is lasting power of attorney. This is particularly important if there is the possibility of mental impairment in the future, but really should be considered by us all. None of us know what the future holds, and this is a way of ensuring that our own wishes are considered, both financially and personally, e.g. what type of care one wishes to receive. If one is unable to make one's own decisions through incapacity. Those who have already granted lasting power of attorney to their chosen trustees do not need to alter these arrangements unless they want to extend the powers beyond financial arrangements to their personal care. The Leonardo Trust or the Citizens Advice Bureau can help you with this or speak to your solicitor. It's important to consider this early because the person who is granted only must be fully capable of understanding what is being done at the time of signing the forms. It cannot be done when mental capacity has already been lost and there are serious implications about who makes the financial and personal decisions for people who have not made this arrangement. If the person you care for becomes terminally ill, it's worth remembering that if he or she has not been seen a doctor, has not been seen by a doctor after death or during the 14 days preceding death, the coroner must be informed. Unfortunately, the police will probably become involved too. This does not mean that there are suspicious circumstances, but it may mean that the body will be removed from your care. If you can arrange regular visits from your GP, or if your GP records that death may be imminent, so that the out-of-hours services know that there are unlikely to be suspicious circumstances if the death occurs during their watch, it should be possible to avoid this. Difficulties like this are most likely to arrive at weekends. These are occasions when it could be too late to say, if only I'd known that. The big taboo. All carers are like camels. No, it's not that they always have the hump. It's just that there's always one last straw that breaks them. Mine was incontinence. There, I've said it. And I feel as naughty as if I'd said knickers in front of you all. Silly, isn't it? But after all of those years of potty training, I suppose, first our own, then our children's, and then a step removed, our grandchildren's, we've been conditioned to feel that it's all a matter of self-control, and none of us likes to lose that. I've tried to shut my eyes and my mind to it, but it won't go away. I took all of the precautions I could do to avoid the problems and to hide the consequences if that didn't work. The drain on my emotional resources, especially when we were away from home, was enormous. Incontinence has all sorts of causes, and not all of them have to do with loss of control. Urinary infections can be one trigger. This may also cause a change in behaviour, so it's also a good idea to check this out with one's GP, especially if it's a sudden onset problem. But have you ever thought what it must be like to know that you want to go to or if you've got down there, there's no way you can get back up again. Or if your brain is giving your legs the wrong messages, as it does sometimes with people who have Parkinson's disease or similar symptoms, and you can't turn around to sit. If the person you care for has problems like this, contact Care Direct on 01 202 454 979 or Dorset Direct on 01 305 221 016 for Dorset Council, and ask for an occupational therapy assessment and discuss it with your GP. The solution may be as simple as fitting a raised seat or rails. And of course, there are other reasons for incontinence that do not have their basis in loss of control. But even those can sometimes be cured. Most modern mothers will have been taught pelvic floor exercises after the birth of their children, but these can be just as useful for men and women who have slight urinary incontinence, whether or not they have had children. It's sad to think of the number of people who hide this problem because they are ashamed, and it's not a problem that affects the elderly, when a simple daily exercise might be all that's required. In fact, I'm doing mine now while I type. If none of the above solutions fits your problems, there are several different options, incontinence pads being one of them. This may be an acceptable and inconvenient method, but for some, it will mark not just the loss of control, but loss of dignity too. But all is not lost. Have you ever heard of a non-invasive catheter or sheath? No, nor had I. But it transformed my husband's life and mine. Again, I'm not an expert, but I found a lady who was. She was our local continence advisor, and she approached her subject with a delicate enthusiasm that removed all embarrassment. Contact your GP and ask for a continence assessment. Just think what solving this problem could mean to you and to the person for whom you are caring. No more watching like a hawk for signs of discomfort. No more refusals of invitations because there might be an accident. Less washing, less cleaning up, less bad-tempered tension between you both. Now, if only you'd known that. Time for a break. Most people who care for someone feel guilty if they wish they could have a break from their duties for a while. But have you ever thought it might be the other way round? If the person you care therefore is at home with only you for company, maybe they'd like a break. When it was suggested that my husband should be assessed for a place at the daycare centre, I felt dreadful. On the morning that I took him the first ever time, I wept. My sense of having betrayed him was such that I thought he would never forgive me. Imagine my surprise when the volunteer driver who brought him home delivered a happier, livelier, and more talkative man than I had known for some time. For 3 days a week, he was with a group of people who knew how to stimulate him both mentally and physically. It wasn't that after more than 30 years of marriage, there was nothing more for us to say to one another. We still had a very good relationship. But when dementia sets in, then the person who has to answer the same questions hour after hour, day after day, week after week, month after month, and sometimes year after year, it's not always ready with a fresh answer or a merry quip. How wonderful to have a new audience, especially if you enjoy a good chat. The fact that I had a few hours to myself and loss of sleep sat one's own resources. And one's own health can be in danger, and if you fall ill, who's going to do the caring? Since I stopped caring, there is a service called Carers in Crisis, which is available in the Bournemouth, Poole and Christchurch area. This service provides free care during the initial 48-hour period if due to an emergency you are not able to provide the usual care. To access this service, you will need to have had a carers assessment by a care manager and be registered with the carers scheme. This service is available 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year. After the 48-hour period, the person you're caring for may need to purchase their own care, depending on their financial circumstances. Alternatively, if you live elsewhere in the county of Dorset, a one-stop service called Carer Support Dorset came into effect on the 21st of November 2019, aiming at providing vital access for carers to information, support, training and respite. They can be reached on 0800 368 8349 or at admin@carersupportdorset.co.uk. You can access information and make a referral. If, however, an emergency caring situation occurs, then call Adult Social Care during office hours on 01305 221 016 or out of hours on 01202 657 279. Carers Direct NHS is a national carers helpline where carers can find out about a variety of support services, including benefits, entitlements and carers' rights. The helpline is open from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday to Friday and 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at weekends and on public holidays. Calls are free from landline. Alternatively, use their website to book a free callback at the time that suits you or submit an online inquiry form or even join the web chat service. The callback can be made in over 170 different languages. There is a wide range of useful information that can be found on the website at NHS at www.nhs.uk/carers direct. This is time to start talking about planned respite care, and it is worth talking about it before you think you really need it. There are 2 reasons for this. If you leave it until you reach crisis point, it may not be possible to arrange at short notice. And if you have short breaks from your care, you may delay the crisis. It is amazing how a few days without the strains of looking after somebody can recharge the batteries. Although these short periods of respite do not infringe the rules for claiming attendance allowance, they must be reported to the benefits agent. Respite is not always a happy one. It's a bit like sending your child away to boarding school, but there's an underlying sense of loss and guilt, and for the one in care, there is possibly a feeling of rejection and abandonment. But just as most children soon settle down at school and only pull at our heartstrings while we're looking, so most people go into respite care soon feel at home in a safe and loving environment. If it's possible for respite to be provided at the same place each time, it becomes less traumatic. The cared for person will know the staff and they will know him or her. That is a great benefit to both sides. I can never thank enough the professionals who helped give my husband and me a better quality of life during his last 9 months. Thank goodness I knew that. Sharing the caring. Do you ever feel you've done 10 rounds with Frank Bruno when you finish getting the person you care for up in the morning? Do you ever wonder what it would feel like to go to bed just tired enough to sleep, not so exhausted that you lie awake for hours? Do you ever wonder why it's your neighbour who gets all the winning smiles, why you just get the snaps? Do you ever feel like giving up? Well, don't, because by dementia, whatever the cause, this may become literally true. It is not intentional and quite often comes about because the person concerned is unaware of his or her own strength. But there is also an element of not needing to be as inhibited in one's behaviour with someone one loves or knows very well. You could take it as a compliment. Of course, dementia is not the only reason where there may be a problem. It may be physical disabilities that make things different. Perhaps cooking lunches beyond the person's capabilities or doing the shopping or the cleaning. Whatever the situation, there is a caring cavalry ready to ride in. Their care services can make an assessment of your needs and work out the package of care to suit you, or arrange with private agencies to supply the help. This is not a free service, but it is charged on a means-tested basis, bearing in mind that the person being cared for is probably getting attendance allowance, and that is paid to help provide care. Then the charges should not be unreasonable. Direct payments are local council payments available for anyone who has been assessed as needing help from community care services. The payments could be a lump sum towards a break or a piece of equipment to sustain the carer. Some employ a personal assistant to help with personal care or to help them access activities. They are normally available if you are a carer aged 16 or over or a parent, including people with parental responsibility for a disabled child. Once again, to find out what may be available, contact Care Direct for Bournemouth, Poole and Christchurch, or Dorset Direct for Dorset Council area. Our care workers had all sorts of strategies for dealing with someone whose brain couldn't always process messages correctly. Time to get up wasn't necessarily followed by the appropriate action, but race you to the bathroom produced an immediate response. Painting of a ship resulted in jumping up to give a delighted exhibition. It was a sort of take me to see your etchings approach. If legs had forgotten how to tuck themselves under the bedclothes in English, we tried German, a language my husband had learnt at university in Munich. And if things didn't go quite according to plan, laugh. I heard fits of giggles coming from the bedroom one evening and saw my husband in bed with one of his angels on top, legs and arms in all directions. She had apparently slipped on the floor. It wouldn't have been so bad, she said afterwards, if he hadn't have said, "Oh, I did enjoy that." These carers were often the ones that got the praise, but they deserved it. They did everything with care. They were part of our family for 9 months, and we shared lots of ups and downs. This could be you. Wanting a break, not sure if you're eligible for help, need someone to talk to, often feel isolated or lonely, would like to know what help is available, feel worried about the future. If you've answered yes to any of these questions, then it's time to contact Care Direct on 01202 454 979 for Bournemouth, Poole and Christchurch, or Dorset Adult Access Team on 01305 221 016 for the Dorset area. They're available to help you specifically. Carers can be very undemanding people and often do not realise they are a carer. They don't like to bother their GP and know that they can contact community care services, adult social care or community nurses without going through their doctor. They aren't even sure there's anything that can be done anyway because they've never met anyone with problems quite like theirs. Care Direct and Adult Social Care can provide information about all of the services that are available through care in the community. They can suggest ways of getting a break from caring, perhaps help plan a holiday for the carer and cared for, They can put you in touch with your local carers support group, or they can refer you to the Carers Trust, which has free online courses about caring for someone with dementia, or the Recovery Education Centre, who provide free training courses if you're caring for someone with mental health issues. The courses are mainly held out in the community, so you shouldn't have to travel to. Information about opticians, dentists, and chiropodists who are willing to do home visits, then contact Care Direct for Bournemouth, Poole, and Christchurch, or Dorset Direct for Dorset Council area. To make contact today, and you should never again have to say, "If only I'd known that." My husband's cake walk. Thinking about mobility, and if you don't see what that's got to do with cake, I'd better explain. Dementia can play funny tricks on the brain. It can sometimes tell a chap that his legs don't work, or that he can't put his feet out of the car, or that he can't walk through a doorway. No use anyone saying nonsense. Of course you can. Would you believe what someone else said, or would you believe what your own brain told you? But if the brain learns there's chocolate cake for tea, and it knows that tea is being served in the sitting room, then it had better find a way of getting there fast. And if the quickest way to get there is to stand up and walk, then that's what it will arrange. Don't ask me how it does, but it does. It works well with toasted tea cakes too. And I'm sure if you were to try it with success with Dundee cake or a nice lemon sponge. But of course, there are times when even these strategies won't work, and more physical help is needed. You may need to access training for help with this. Contact either the Carers Trust or Oakley Friends, who can offer free training in first aid, continence, advice, safer handling, stress management, falls prevention, and ways to cope with memory loss. For information on future courses, contact Judy at Oakley Friends on 01202 021 705. Contact Dorset Direct or Care Direct and ask for an occupational therapist to come and assess the needs of the person for whom the care, and arrange for suitable help to be arranged. This may mean having rails fitted through your house to give support and confidence. It may mean a walking stick or a Zimmer frame, or it may mean a wheelchair. These can be supplied and increased independence, which is so vital. The British Red Cross can also lend a variety of aids designed to help you. If climbing the stairs becomes difficult, then you may be able to get a grant to have a stair lift fitted, which maintains normality, especially for those who are going to go upstairs to bed. If mobility outside the house is a problem, the Blue Badge Scheme may be able to provide extra help for shopping or going to the dentist. It can be made easier if you park right outside or within a few yards of where you want to go. Contact Dorset Direct or Care Direct, depending on whether you live in Bournemouth, Christchurch or Poole, or in the Dorset area, and they will be able to help you and assess the capability of the person for whom you're applying, and fill in the form over the phone. I filled in my husband's form as honestly as I could, stating that he could walk about a quarter of a mile. Yes, but how long does it take? My GP asked, reminding me that there is no shame in asking for help. Remember, though, the Blue Badge Scheme is for the disabled person, not the chauffeur. So you can't park anywhere, leaving while you go off to have your hair cut. If you do, be prepared for a £1,000 fine. One aid that I learnt about too late, but which would have been very useful, is the car passenger swivel seat. It can be fitted to almost any make of car and swings right out to make it easier for someone with limited mobility or flexibility to sit down before getting in the car. I'm sure one of those would have solved another one of our problems. Now, if only I'd known that. The deterioration of my husband's language was very gradual, with the occasional step change when he suffered an ischemic attack. Towards the end, it was his inability to understand any shorthand of ours that we might have had through the language of love. Unless they were said using the textbook use of syntax and grammar, they meant nothing to him. It was useless for me to say, "But you know what I mean," because he didn't. Where once we had used so few words to express so much, now we use so many words to explain the simplest things. But his mind was still active. Luckily, he retained his sense of humour, which is not always the case, and was quick-wit, often showed through with puns that he could produce amazing speed and regularity. It was this inspirational speech that gave me an idea. We had moved from Scotland 10 days before my husband's first stroke, which meant he had no local friends. So I asked the Institute of Physics where they knew any retired members who lived locally and who would be willing to come and talk with us over lunch or tea. They sent out letters to several members with postcodes close to ours, and in a few days the first replies came. Though the writer pointed out he was 92 and nearly blind. Undaunted, we invited him and his wife for lunch, and from that moment they arrived, we knew it was going to be a success. By the end of their visit, we felt we had known each other, and my husband's ability to join in had been exactly as I had hoped. This taught me two lessons. The first is that we sometimes have to find unusual ways to solve problems. And secondly, we carers often don't like to ask for help, assuming that friends and neighbours will be too embarrassed by the changes that are taking place. However, in my experience, people really do want help, but they don't know what they can do. If invited, they reply with willingness and feel privileged to be involved. In the end, 6 members had the courage to take up the challenge of rearranging my husband in normal life, and our social to seek out help, whether from professionals, volunteers, family or friends, and sometimes even strangers. With their support, life in the care for can be made less stressful and more rewarding, if only you can remember that. A carer's guide, how to recognise and support someone with memory problems. Do you go into your room sometimes and wonder why you came in? Do you forget where you put something? Does this sound familiar? Don't worry, this happens to us all, particularly carers. It's normal for our memory to let us down sometimes, particularly when we're tired, stressed, or just have too much going on. But dementia is different. So what is it? Dementia describes a group of diseases that affects the brain. It changes normal brain function, and the effects on behaviour depend on which area is affected and which type of dementia is involved. Dementia can affect memory. It's hard to keep hold of new information. The thinking process, it's difficult to put thoughts in order and you lose the plot. Communication, difficulty understanding speech or reading body language. Functioning, problems with day-to-day living. Things you may notice: loss of memory, increased forgetfulness, unable to remember names, places or appointments, losing things more often, repeating phrases or asking the same questions. Mood changes. People with dementia can feel frightened and confused, particularly at night. And communication problems, an ongoing decline in all forms of communication like talking or writing. The failing brain could be compared to an old computer unable to store any new files. Information, but the old information they have stored away as memories is still there. A person may not remember what happened yesterday, but can remember quite clearly what happened years back. A person with memory problems may feel frustrated, angry, upset, distressed, alone, frightened. It makes day-to-day life difficult for them, for all those involved in caring for them. Of instances and concerns. Your GP will do a physical examination, as there can be many other causes which affect memory other than dementia, such as infections, depression, etc. If all other problems have been ruled out, your GP may consider further assessment by a specialist. It can take some time to get a diagnosis. Give the person space and time to talk. Don't speak for them and encourage independence. Don't argue or correct. They may not feel that they are doing or saying anything wrong. Distract them. Maybe an activity they have always enjoyed. Talk about things they did like or liked in the past. Don't overstimulate. Keep any background music or noises to a minimum. Ensure there is good light and no dark shadows. And if they're sad, allow them to express their feelings, but encourage and praise them. Keep actions simple. Let's have a cup of tea. Reduces demands, but is not such a confusing question as, would you like tea, coffee or chocolate? Would you like it now or later? If you, the carer, feel angry or stressed, leave the room for a short break. Now, if only I'd known that. If only I'd known that. This was originally written by Susan Hartnell Beavis, who has fortunately let us use this information. You can get more help and information from the directory at the back of the booklet, where we have a full range of signposting and support activities. And you can always phone Care Direct for Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole on 01202 454 979, or if you come under Dorset Council, then phone the Dorset Adult Access Team on 01305 to ask for a carer's assessment. Thank you for listening. Please read the handbook. If only I'd known that.